Hello and welcome to the Baggies podcast YouTube channel. Another video here on the channel. Third one in 3 days, as far as I'm aware. Plenty to come in this one because we're rating our transfer window. We're going to be going through different factors in terms of our transfer window. So we're going to be going in detail into our situation, the money spent, the timing of the transfers, the quality of player, and then finally we're going to be giving the transfer window from West Bromwich Albion a grade. So we're going to be saying, what sort of grade we give it. It's between A to D. So we're going to be seeing what you guys think as well, because you guys are giving me your grade and I'm going to be giving mine. So let's see if we can match on opinion. But we're going to be seeing that's all in today's video. But also, before we start, make sure you're subscribing to the channel. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. It's a long way off, but we're a fifth of the way there. And I'm hoping that you guys can help me on this journey. Make sure that you're subscribing. I'll give you 5 seconds now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, let's see if you've done it. I'm hoping you have, but thank you very much for doing it if you have. But welcome to the channel. There's plenty more content like this coming over the next week or two. It's going to be, we're all locked inside, so I'm hoping to bring you as much content as we can, even though the football might not be cheering you up. There's plenty to keep you going here on the Baggies Podcast YouTube channel. If you want to go and check out our Twitter, at the Baggies Pod, or my Twitter, even so, at @LouisBen_. There's plenty to check out on either of those platforms. You can go and listen to the most recent podcasts on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. That includes former West Brom player Marc-Antoine Fortuna. It was a great opportunity to talk to him, a great lad and a cracking guy as well, telling us his anecdotes, his stories about his time at West Brom. But anyway, let's get into this video. Make sure you're subscribing. Make sure you're liking the video as well. I'm not sure how that helps, but apparently it does. And make sure you comment in your thoughts on the transfer window. But without further ado, let's get into it. So, for starters, we must take into account the situation that we're in. We're not top of the league. We're not challenging for European football. Our aim is to survive this season, or was, at least. So, we have to take into account whether we've signed the right players for our situation, is what I'm trying to say. We haven't signed players that are going to go and win the league, but we have signed players that are going to help us survive in the Premier League, or supposedly help us survive. However, it might just be a little late, but we'll talk about that a bit later on. So the signings are a bid to keep us in the Premier League. Let's face that. You look at the signings. They're not rebuild signings. They're not planning for the future signings. They are loan, short-term deals to try and get us through this season and trying to get us to stay in the league. We sit 10 points away from safety. A point or two more away from safety now. Brighton have gone and beaten Liverpool and Tottenham in the same week in order to increase that gap between the bottom three and the guys outside the relegation zone. So would rebuilding for the future potentially be a better idea? I'd say maybe not. I'd say you could probably still get away with trying to stay up, but you needed to get those transfers in earlier. We'll talk about that in a little bit, obviously, the timing of the transfers. But Big Sam is desperately trying to keep his record intact. Whether you like him or not, he's brought in the players that he thinks that can do the job for him in order to stay in this division. So he's desperately trying to keep that record intact. He's desperately trying to keep his survival CV intact. So, but if you are interested in Big Sam, there's something big coming on the podcast on Sunday. We invited Nick Miller from The Athletic, who's written and interviewed plenty of people who know Big Sam, for a series of podcasts on The Athletic, which was all about Big Sam and the making of him and why he's the way he is today. So we spoke to him. I chatted to him about his experiences with the people who knew Big Sam and gave a pretty interesting insight into the person that we're dealing with here at West Brom. So that's a Nick Miller interview, which is going to be out on the podcast on Monday night. So make sure you're checking that out, because that's going to be out very soon. But he's desperately trying to keep that record intact. He's trying to stay with it. He's trying to keep things going. He's trying to make sure that if he does want another job in football, that there is one there for him. Because if he loses that survival record, people are going to think, you've done it a few times, but that one was a good opportunity to survive and you couldn't get those players to work. So maybe it's a sign of him growing, the football world's growing out of Big Sam in a way. I'm not sure how that would work, but I think the players that we've got at the moment are potentially not in any way Big Sam players. What I'm trying to say, Bilic has assembled a group of sort of flimsy players who potentially won't quite do the business for you. They won't fight for that long. They expect to have all the ball, and they won't under Big Sam, and I don't think they've taken to Big Sam well at all. Whether that's his fault or the player's fault, it's a combination of the two, I think. So the signings are a bid to keep us in the Premier League. Would it be better to rebuild? Potentially. You could have brought in loads of young players, championship players, uh, maybe even with a new manager, which probably could be something you see if we continue to lose, and this survival chance gets from about here to even further down. It's about here at the moment. It's a slender. It's about probably a 5% chance of survival. However, it's getting smaller with every game that we decide to lose. So we could have rebuilt for the future, but I think before the Sheffield United game, there's a real chance, and before the Fulham game, there's a real chance. But yeah, we'll talk about the timing now. Now we're on that sort of topic. So they could have been done before deadline day. I think a few of those could have. Diagne and Yokosulu could be done earlier. Could have been done before the Fulham game, I feel. Both of them. Diagne was, but it was quite late before the Fulham game. Only managed a half out of him because of the way that we'd conducted the transfer. And Yokosulu probably could have been done beforehand. You've had all windows. What I'm trying to say is you've had a window to try and sort these sorts of things out. Maybe there's been problems that I don't know about, but you've had a window to sort these players out. You've had a window to get them in, and we haven't been able to. So those ones could have come in before it's potentially too late. So you've lost to Sheffield United and you've drawn with Fulham. It was too late. Now it's probably too late now for them to come in and keep us in the division. Before those two games, you get those quality additions in. It gives the team a bit of a lift, and you're able to continue in the way that you were. So, they should have been earlier. I don't think Ainsley Maitland-Niles could have been any earlier. I don't think, that could have been any earlier than that because he had other competitors, other transfers, options. So Leicester, Southampton, Newcastle, they had to discuss all that. So I can understand why that was a deadline day deal. It was sort of a last minute, wow, we're the last team left in the race for him, so I guess we can take him. But yeah, I think it shows a bit of poor planning, maybe a bit of poor negotiation. I'm not sure what goes on behind the scenes. I'm not a member of the club. I don't claim to know any more than anybody else about the club. But it could show a sign of poor negotiation. Perhaps looking towards Big Sam a bit too much and relying on his contacts and his inquiring to bring these transfers in. But yeah, so there's it could have been done earlier before it's potentially too late. I think it is too late now. I think we're at the moment. I suppose you could argue that wherever those wins don't have to come against Sheffield United or Fulham, but they're huge indications that you're not good enough to stay in the division, aren't they? Those wins could come at any other point, but I doubt they will now. With that sort of knock of confidence, those players that were originally so low on confidence will be even further down now. Let's talk about the money spent. The money spent's relatively low. We've worked on a budget. Maximum £2 million per player is what we've heard. Snodgrass was a minimal fee, Yokoslu loan, Diagne loan, and Ainsley Maitland-Niles loan. The team have worked well on the budget. Whoever you disagree with, agree with, Luke Dowling, I'm not particularly endeared to him, but whoever you agree with, the team have worked really well on the budget. They've definitely pulled in some good players to help us try and stay in the division. It's just the timing of it, really. It's a bit too late. It's pointless getting these signings in if you're down more or less by the time they can get on the pitch. If you'd had those signings in before the Fulham game, I'd say, yeah, fair play, really good business. You've got it done in time. You're not leaving it to the last minute, and you're able to play them against Fulham and potentially make the difference. You can see in Sheffield United, there were defensive mistakes, but the midfield was getting overrun. Maitland-Niles and Yokoslu would probably solve that problem, and probably will in the future. But yes, so that's a bit of a problem, really, in terms of timing. The quality of player, however, pretty good. Yeah, I like that. I like the quality of player that we've managed to bring in there. I thought we'd done a really good job with the way that we've negotiated those deals for that price. Maybe not the timing, but a good one for that sort of time, for the sort of price and quality of player. Diagne, good caliber player. Goal scoring record's really good. Yet to see if he can do it in the Premier League, but still decent signing. Snodgrass, grit and determination, bit more of an experience. Maybe not the star name that you want, but the sort of name that you really do need. Yokoslu looks to be exactly the midfielder we need. You can check out videos on all these players on the channel. There's a playlist popping up just about now where you can just go and check that out. It's going to be very interesting to see what you guys think about those players. But there are videos all about them, what they could bring to West Brom, some stats and everything else are on them. Ainsley Maitland-Niles, energy, and he's just in general a good footballer. He's a Premier League standard footballer, been playing regular football for Arsenal, just wanted more of a cohesive part in the team and more of a different role in the team. So there's obviously good players coming in. Whether they remain to be proven or do well in the Premier League is another matter. But they've clearly worked hard to get these type of players in. The timing of it is the only problem I have. It's too little. It's not too little, too late. I wouldn't say it's just too late. I think in terms of littleness, I think we got things right with the amount of transfers. It's just too late. That's the only problem. You've done it after the time you could have spent trying to stay up. But yeah, it's difficult. So I'm going to give you my grade for the transfer window. So I've talked about our situation. Should we have rebuilt for the future? I don't think so. I think it has to all be about staying up before the Fulham game. After the Fulham and Sheffield game, why don't you rebuild? Why don't you get a new manager in? Maybe that's something that we should have done. Money spent relatively low, good amount of money. Not in terms of good amount of money, but good value for money. You've got a good quality of player. The timing, however, is it's just typical Albion. Getting it in last minute, not good enough. Should have been earlier, and now it's too late, I think. However, the rating, I'd give it, budget-wise, you couldn't have done any better. The plan for the future, I mean, with Allardyce in charge, it's just not going to happen, is it? He's not going to want to plan for the future. He doesn't care. He's not going to care about our future. He's going to be here for the rest of the season, if not even less than that. He's not going to be here any longer, I don't think. I think he has to make a fist of staying up, Allardyce. I think he won't let that record go down in tatters, really. He wants to stay up. He wants to show that it's almost a bit of a stubbornness to move or to change your ways, but he's going to want to stay up no matter the cost. But I'm going to give this transfer window a grade B. So there, I gave you guys that option as well. Grade B, I think, is fair. Just the timing would stop it from being a grade A in terms of our sort of transfer business. You just have to ask where was all that in the summer. And I think that's probably where Bilic's the fault lies at Bilic's door. He showed a lot of loyalty towards players that perhaps wouldn't cut it at this level. Diangana, Kravinovic, and then Grant bringing him in. I just think he showed a bit too much loyalty. I like Bilic as a manager. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't a fan of him being sacked at all, but I think that he can be held partially to blame for all of this. However, I've asked you guys what you guys think. What grade would you give our January transfer business? You guys voted 11% for grade A, 18% for grade C, 15% for grade D, and then 56% for grade B. So you've agreed with me, and we've come to a good managed outcome. We've agreed on grade B for our transfer business. I've assumed that you guys are just thinking about the timing. Bob Taylor, not the real Bob Taylor, by the way, Bob Taylor on Twitter says it's just the rest of it that's a bit pants, really. And Stephen Whitehouse says too little, too late. I'd say it's definitely too little. I'd say it's definitely too late, but maybe not too little. I think the right amount of transfers were bought in, but no, I think just you could have bought in more of that sort of calibre of player in the summer. I think it could have worked. But yeah, problems at the Albion and problems behind the scenes. It's too late for those transfers to probably come in and make too much of an impact, but it's going to make nice viewing to watch different players play. Jokoslu and Maitland-Niles are going to make a bit of a difference to watch different players play. That's all. But that brings us to the end of this video here on the Baggies Podcast YouTube. Thank you for watching. It's been a pleasure having you on. If you're new around here, subscribe. Go and do it. Go and do it now. Get yourself involved. Go and start your journey on the channel. Plenty of videos for you to watch. Plenty of podcasts for you to listen to. All things Albion coming very soon and previously coming. Plenty of things coming out. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Louis Bent or at the Baggies Pod. But that brings us to the end of this video on ranking our transfer window. I've given us a grade B. You guys are giving us a grade B. And that's your thoughts and my thoughts combined to agree. But that brings us to the end of this video. And I'll see you next time. Goodbye.